Agile is trendy and has been spreading fast in the software industry in the past decades, spilling over to other industries as well. But Agile is often misunderstood. One sign of the vagueness of the term is the fact that we use the word Agile alone. But Agile is an adjective. So when we say Agile, we should pause for a moment and ask ourselves what we mean. Agile what? We may use Agile in two senses in a digital transformation context. In the narrow sense, we may think of Agile software development. In the broader sense, we may think of Agile approach to projects in general. Agile is trendy for a reason. Used well, the Agile approach is an efficient tool for quick start, fast-track projects. But you must know what you do, so this chapter provides some reality check on Agile. Its evangelists sell the Agile approach with the label of quick start, steady delivery, and little overhead. They also say Agile has an advantage when you do not have all the details at the start but need results fast. Most of what they tell about Agile is true. Part of what we hear is not. True, we can start a project with Agile approach without a detailed specification. Agile methods provide the means to develop detailed requirements as we go. But we still need to know what we want. We must have clear goals and overall roadmap in our mind. We also need to be confident that we know our field well enough to develop detailed requirements as we go. Agile may work on uncharted terrain, but no method can guarantee results if you do not know what you want and what you are doing. True, Agile methods help us deliver fast and steady, but it doesn't mean they deliver the full scope. Agile deliveries are increments, starting with a few key functions and add to them at each release. Early deliveries are good for feedback, exploration, and risk management. Having a system with full functionality takes time. True, the Agile approach is lightweight in terms of documentation overhead, but it doesn't mean you need not document what you do. In most cases, we have the same depth and detail with Agile documentation, only in a different structure. Instead of collecting requirements in one document, functional descriptions in another, and testing in a third, we break down the full documentation into user stories and then add functional and test documentation to the user story. In addition, this works well only if we access and use the tools developed for Agile approach. While managing Agile documentation in spreadsheets and word processors is possible, it is painful and prone to errors. So the Agile approach has great potential, but it is not a panacea or a simple escape. As there is no royal way to mathematics, there is no royal way to software development, system implementation, or business transformation. Agile promises fast start, steady delivery, and fast progress without asking the customer to come up with full specification at the start. But Agile projects are intense endeavors, requiring active participation and full commitment from the customer during the entire project. In a sense, Agile precedes all other approaches to project management. People completed significant projects well before they could come up with any defined and structured method for project management. At first sight, Agile seems to be a denial of structured methods. The Agile versus Waterfall comparison appears as a dichotomy of project management approaches. Supporters of the Agile approach often portray structured models as outdated, rigid methods applicable only to simple missions. Nothing is further from the truth. The choice between Agile and structured project management is not a choice between two options, but seeking the optimum on a wide adaptive structured spectrum. Change is possible in a structured project. We can also manage uncertainty by defining stages, study phases, or adding iterations. In fact, we may also consider Agile as a structured project where we took iterations to the extreme. There is more than one dimension in selecting the right approach to our project. The Agile Practical Guide introduces 4 project cycle categories along 2 dimensions. The first dimension measures change. The second, the frequency of delivery. The 4 life cycle categories are predictive, agile, iterative, and incremental. And the guide emphasizes the continuous spectrum between predictive and agile extremes. According to the guide, predictive methods work best with low frequency of delivery and few changes. Agile methods fit projects where changes and delivery are frequent. Projects with lots of changes but few deliveries are iterative. Projects with frequent deliveries but few changes are incremental. This is a more accurate view, but leaves out risk from the calculations. High-risk projects with life and death consequences call for structured methods. In these cases, we handle uncertainties with study and experimental phases in a controlled manner. Last but not least, we may also combine agile and structured elements in the same project. So never choose agile only to avoid developing a specification. Choose agile for a valid reason. Before we can work with the agile approach, we need to understand it. Go agile only when you know what you are doing. If you go agile without knowing its limitations and adopting its principles, do not blame the method for failure. The choice is complex, but we can boil down the complexity to what we fix and what varies in a typical agile and structured setting. The figure on the screen shows the difference and its key consequences. Structured projects have a fixed scope. We calculate what resources and time we need to cover the scope and adjust them when we need it. In agile projects, we do not start with a defined scope. We may have a general understanding of what we want, but no detailed scope definition. We have fixed time and resources and build our solution in small chunks. The iron triangle of project management says the balance of scope, time, and resources defines the quality of our project execution. For a large scope, we need more time and resources. While there are trade-offs between time and resources, extremes are less efficient than a balanced mix. Structured and agile projects differ when we face a challenge and our progress slows. In structured projects, our fixed scope leads to quality problems when we underallocate time and resources. In agile projects, quality doesn't suffer, but we realize a smaller scope. This is a choice between fewer bugs or fewer features in software development. As agile works with a variable scope, transformation projects cannot follow the agile path. We can introduce agile components for system customization, for example, but adoption of a new business model calls for a fixed scope. Once we have our business framework, develop the clear roadmap, and have a product owner to lead the project, we can rely on agile sprints for system configuration, but be prepared to add sprints to cover the entire scope if progress is slower than expected. One more word of caution on agile is still needed. If our organization has no experience with the agile approach, introducing agile is a major change itself. This means we need a change project to introduce agile in the organization. The agile approach is flexible. We can use our own playbook and develop our own rules. But creating our own methods needs experience and careful thought. If your organization is new to Agile, choose a well-established method first and spend some time learning. We not only have a wide selection of project cycles in the adaptive structured spectrum, we may also mix Agile and structured elements within a project. Agile and structured stages may alternate, or we may start with developing a detailed specification, go Agile for software development, and return to the structured approach for rigorous testing. Our choice is endless, but mixing approaches is an advanced level of project management. To succeed, we need to know both worlds well. Transformation projects are about complex change in uncharted terrain. Not knowing our navigation tools is dangerous in this setting. Maybe the most important warning about Agile is what we should not choose Agile to avoid something. Agile is not about ignoring planning or documentation, but putting them to the service of creating value. We do not ignore exploration and definition of requirements in an Agile project, but do it in small chunks. This is an intense process. When we are vague with needs definition, to save the effort, we do not follow Agile principles, but do something else. We can compare Agile projects to traversing a dense forest. We understand the forest and know our general direction, but we cannot figure out all of our steps in advance. Yet, we can traverse fast if we pay attention. But if we don't, we keep bumping into trees. Going Agile to avoid developing a clear specification while rejecting the intensity of the Agile approach is not a different version of Agile. It is a suicide run. We should not confuse the Agile approach with the suicide run. The Agile approach promises fast start and early delivery. It doesn't promise an effortless start and quick delivery of the entire scope. Agile is not a way to escape the rigor of a structured project. It is an approach to provide teams with flexibility and trading a long preparation phase for intense participation during the entire journey. If you found this chapter full of cliché, Agile may be right for you. You know the Agile approach well. If it was disturbing, be careful. You can always hire experienced Scrum Masters, product owners, and Agile coaches to support your team. The last section coming next is our capstone section. Governance of projects looks simple. Instead of complex technical details, it is about setting direction and maintaining momentum. But good governance requires an understanding of the complete structure. We cannot make sound decisions without understanding the consequences.